Hello, everyone. It's just so good to be with you again, and I have an incredible honor and pleasure of having Sherri Lessman with me today. And Sherri has a story that is very unique and a point of view that we don't get to hear very often. And I'm not going to tell her story. I'm going to let her tell her story. But she lives outside of Marlin, Texas, on a small ranch, and she is taking care of her two grandchildren. Right now, they go to school right near her. She's married to her precious husband, Dean. They've been married for 39 years. Congratulations, Sherri. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Wonderful. They have 4 grown children and 11 grandchildren with 1 on the way. And as we begin to hear her story, you're going to hear her talk about her faith in the Lord and how all of the things that her life has been. And Sherri, just thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's incredible. It's such an honor and a pleasure to have you here. So one of the things I like to do, just so people can get to know you a little bit better, is to just ask you, what's a regular day like for you? Now, if you're taking care of 2 small children, I'm sure that's busy, but could you tell us just a little bit about what life is like for you just on the everyday?
Yeah. I get up, I pray, and read my Bible with my husband. That's our first thing. And then our little grandkids come. They're 3 and 4. No, they're 4 and 5 now.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we'll, just get settled and everything. And then after a while, we'll go out and work on I call it a farm. It's really a ranch. We don't grow crops. And we will clear. We've got lots of land to clear. And so we'll do that. And they'll play out there in what I call the woods. And then sometimes I bring a lunch for them, and they'll sit back on the back of the truck, come back, learn their letters, and then they take their nap, and then I get to rest for a little while.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's pretty much of our day. Right now, we've been doing a lot of baseball too in the evening. They're all in baseball, t-ball.
That sounds like fun, and it's a beautiful time of year for that. It's just so beautiful. This particular time of year, wherever you are listening to this, I hope that you're having beautiful weather too. So, Sherri, I told everyone that we're going to have a very unique and beautiful story. And what I would love is just in your own words for you to just tell us about the situation that you and your family found yourself in and what that was like for you.
Okay. Well, it's been a long time ago, really, but it, in a lot of ways, seems like yesterday that my oldest daughter, Summer, had a baby named Emma. So she was pregnant with Emma, and doctors told her early on that there were some problems. So we knew that there were problems. We realized that they were pretty serious problems with the heart. And Summer really had faith, and we posted scriptures. She posted scriptures all around her house, and we just believed that God was going to heal this baby even before she was born. But when she was born, she wasn't healed, and Summer was pretty devastated then because she had so much faith. I mean, she really believed that the baby would be born, there'd be nothing wrong. But she had some serious heart problems and realized in the next couple of days in the hospital that there was more. Wow. Summer knew that the baby just cried and cried and cried. She couldn't settle her down. She couldn't feed her. She wouldn't eat. And she just knew the baby just wasn't acting right. They had to do heart surgery before they ever left the hospital, and that devastated her even more. And they went home, and every day things just seemed to get worse with the baby. And like I said, I mean, she wouldn't eat, and they took her back to the doctor, of course. And she was diagnosed with Alagille syndrome. So we had never heard of this, but it is a very rare syndrome. And what it is vascular disease.
Oh, wow.
And where all the vessels in the body are either very, very small or non-existent.
Oh, my.
And so it affects so much. It affected her heart because of the vessels in her heart. And it affected her liver because of the bile ducts in the liver, out of the liver. And out of that, we learned that the liver would not process the bile.
Oh,
And
man.
because of that, she itched all the time because
Oh.
bile has a lot of salt. It has salt in it. So that was one of the first things that, was truly, just so distressing to think that this baby was itching all the time, all the time. And they gave her medicine and stuff that helped with that, but she still itched all the time.
Wow.
So that was kind of just a horrible realization. And one of the many things that we realized, we can't do anything about this. It's just the way it is. And so as Summer, as the baby grew a little bit older, I just saw Summer start just sinking. The baby couldn't sleep because of the itching, and she never would eat. These babies with Alagille syndrome are very malnourished. And so I saw Summer just really, really sinking. And so thankful for a good husband that she had. He tried to hold the family together. He's a teacher. He was going to work every day.
Okay.
Summer was at home trying to take care of the baby, and they had a 2-year-old, but both of them were really dealing with a lot of fear, and Summer was getting very depressed.
Yeah.
And so I was going up there. I was working also. I'd go up there every weekend from work and be up there all weekend. And sometimes I would just drive back to work. I wouldn't, I wanted to help her as much as I could. And
Yes.
there wasn't a lot I could do, What I could do was to relieve her, because they weren't getting to sleep either, because Emma didn't sleep.
Yeah.
So they were up like all night and just so stressed. So when I came up, I could relieve them, and at least they got to sleep. So that was one thing I could do. But then my work, I was very tired from doing that. And my work ended up later giving me two more days off. It was like the greatest gift.
Yeah.
They gave me 2 days off, paid leave. And so I would go on Thursday and Friday and butt it up to the weekend, so I could be there 4 days.
Oh, my goodness.
Summer lived about 3 hours away from me, so
Oh, wow.
that's why I couldn't just go after work or something. And so I would go up there, and I was just determined to hold Summer together.
Yeah.
And I was determined to, will Emma to live, because a lot of these babies do die. And if they don't die, they don't have a very long life, maybe 20 years. But I was just determined. And I see now that it was a lot of my own pride. I wasn't really relying on God that much. I was praying, I was, believing, but it's like I was going to do it. I was going to make this happen. At the same time, my husband just kind of had a word, not really a word from God, but he knew in his spirit that Emma wasn't going to live. So we were two completely different, very, very different with what we were thinking.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't hear of it, that she wasn't going to live. So I would go up there and help Summer, and still had a lot of faith that God was going to heal her. But Emma got sicker and sicker and sicker. they put a PICC line in her, and they started feeding her with TPN. Well, they always had tried to feed her with a G tube, but she wouldn't take in enough nutrition. So they use this stuff called TPN, and I forget what that stands for, but it's highly nutritious.
Right.
But sometimes, so they would just pump that in. It was on a pump, and they would pump that into her stomach, and her little stomach would just so full. Sometimes she'd throw it up, and it was just terrible. It was really just heartbreaking, you know. And then, so as time went on, her liver started to fail, and so she always had this great tan. It was just because she was yellow, you know, because her liver wasn't working right. And anyway, her liver was failing. We wanted her to have a liver transplant, and she actually got on the transplant list. It's hard to find a baby liver, you know. So we were waiting, and as we waited, she got sicker and sicker. So I decided I was going to lose weight. I found out, I didn't know this before, but you can have a live liver transplant.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, they take the bottom lobe of your liver and they can transplant it, and it will grow. And the person, the donor, their liver will grow back.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So I was overjoyed. I was like, I am going to give her my liver. And again, you know, I'm going to make her live.
Right.
So anyway, so I was losing weight because the liver had to fit. Summer and Mike's home turned into a virtual ICU unit. I mean, she had IV, through the PICC line, we fed her and everything. And she had, I can't remember why, she had, I guess that was the PICC line in her arm. It was in her arm. And anyway, it was just harder and harder. She was in and out of the hospitals all the time. She would have these crises, but finally on December 7th, she went to the hospital. Summer called me, and she didn't normally call me. She knew I was coming that morning, and she called me, and she said, "Mama, hurry. I need you to come now." So I knew that something really bad was going on, and lots of bad things went on with Emma. So, you know, there was always this hope, like no matter how bad it got, she always pulled through. So it would be okay, you know. But I rushed up there, and we rushed to the hospital, and they air flighted her to Dallas Hospital, and she was septic. And so she was still living, and we were still believing that she would live no matter what. And I remember the doctor saying that, you know, she couldn't live. And I made him say it was possible.
Wow.
It's possible. Wow. He finally said, well, it's possible, you know, if this and this happens. And I'm like, okay, well, it's possible then. She'll live. And anyway, he didn't believe it, but I did. So we all stayed by her side, and 7 days later, she died.
Oh, Sherri.
So, yeah.
And how old was she?
She was 11 and a half months.
My goodness.
And that was a hard thing. It was 2 weeks before her birthday, and it was right before Christmas. And so she passed away, and I had just come back from the hospital. I'd been up there, but I had just come back, and then they called, and Mike called. Just so, you know, I was so thankful for Mike, because he was so strong for Summer, and he was going through so much too.
Yeah.
But he called and just said her heart just keeps stopping, and they're doing CPR, and then then it stops again, but they can't stop until Summer
Oh
Mike
my
told them
gosh.
to.
Oh
So it
my
was
gosh.
really heartrending, and we rushed back up there to Dallas, and I remember just saying to Dean, this can't happen. This can't happen, because I was like, I can't do this,
Yeah.
and mainly that Summer couldn't do it. I just didn't know how she could get through it. And
Yeah.
we went in there, and there she was, and it was just the most surreal thing. She's holding this little dead baby, and she was trying to comfort me. She's
Mm.
like, she's done, Mama. She doesn't have to fight anymore, and
Yeah.
she can rest now. But just tears,
Wow.
and so I got to hold her, and it's just so real to walk out of a hospital room and like leave her there, and no one knows how to do that.
No.
Right away, Satan began to work with me. So right away, I I was angry. Summer and Mike are such good people and good parents,
Mm-hmm.
and really love this baby. And I was like, why? Why would you let her die when they
Yeah.
believed so strongly? They knew you were gonna, help them, and you didn't. And why didn't you answer our prayers? And why would an innocent child, why would you
Mm-hmm.
allow an innocent child to suffer, or anyone to suffer? Why is suffering? And why take a child from parents that love her so much when there's others out there that don't? And
Yeah.
I just couldn't understand. So my heart was so confused and so
Yes.
full of pain, and it's kind of a double pain for a grandparent,
Yeah.
because I really loved Emma, but I saw my child, suffering so much,
Yeah.
and I saw her husband, just suffering and having to be strong, and they were going to have to go home and talk to their little 2-year-old,
Oh.
and tell her, and it's just all this pain is all around everybody.
Yes. Yes.
So, but we could never feel the kind of pain that they felt. I know, but as a grandparent, we had this extra thing with watching our child
Right.
and our grandchild.
Yes.
But so after that, we did what we could, and there's not a whole lot that I felt like we could do. How could we really help them?
Yeah.
And so we we decided to make a big garden for Emma,
Oh.
and that ended up, I felt like there would be life there.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that ended up being very, very therapeutic for Summer, more than we knew.
No.
I wanted her to have something just to remember Emma, and we got some of the little garden statues, and at least it
Oh.
was something that we could do together that might be considered kind of fun for Summer and Mike,
Yes.
and so we went out and got all that, and our whole family came together, and we got all the
Yeah.
stuff to make a garden, and we did it one day, and it was very
Oh.
sweet, day.
It's just beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was. I was reading the other day in the Bible about the woman that broke the perfume on Jesus' feet,
Yes.
and Jesus told the Pharisees that were, upset with her, And he said, leave her alone. She's done what she could.
Yeah.
And I had never noticed that before, but I think that's
Oh,
so profound, really.
yeah.
You just do what you can. And
I love
sometimes it's
that.
not a really big thing. It might just be buying some plants for a garden.
Yeah.
But I made a little scrapbook for summer about Emma with pictures and cards people had sent. And then it was Christmas.
Mm.
And, I can't imagine how they got through Christmas, but they did. They came to our house, and you could just see the pain and the
Oh, yeah.
sadness on their face. But again, they were just so brave. They just do what they have to do. And I made sure I got a special little ornament, and I wanted Summer to know that we may have lost her, but she's still ours. you know.
Yeah. That's
And
beautiful. That's so
yeah,
beautiful. So,
um,
Sherri, I have a question for you about
yeah,
that because I know in the place where you are now that are a woman of great faith. And you just told us that you were in a place where you're just like, why, God? How could you do
mhm,
this?
mhm.
Would you tell us how you were able to reclaim and to reignite faith in God?
Yes, yes. It took a little while. I'd be at church, and I just couldn't worship. So many of the songs just rang hollow to me.
Yeah,
About how God is faithful, and I was very angry. I was very,
sure.
very angry at that time, which is part of grief. But I ended up kind of stuck in my grief. I couldn't quite get over it. And I went to Theophostic prayer. I had some Theophostic prayer, and it really, really helped me. It just brought me peace. I actually saw a vision of Jesus holding
Wow.
Emma, and he just stayed there. And I
Wow.
sat and I just kind of watched him and her for half an hour, and then he started to slowly leave, and it just, in my heart, I knew that he was like, I'm going to stay here as long as you need me to.
Wow.
I'm going to be
Wow.
here, and you can see her, you know? And it
Yeah.
was very, very healing to me. Then he showed me several scriptures. One was John 11:25, and it said, "Those who believe in me shall live and never die."
Mhm.
And it just kind of hit me. I know that scripture, but I was like, you know what? She's not dead. She's alive.
Yeah.
She's alive. And that helped me. And then Psalms 102:19. It says, "For he looked down from his holy height, from heaven the Lord gazed upon the earth to hear the groaning of the prisoner, to set free those who were doomed to death."
Wow.
And it really spoke to me that, Emma did not have good quality of life. She suffered a lot. And that in his mercy, that God looked down and he saw that, and he was, even with transplants, we found that a lot of the kids actually later, they might get cancer or
Oh,
something because of the immune depressant drugs.
right.
And so who knows what would have happened later.
Right.
But that God looked down and he was like, no, you're not going to just suffer and suffer and then die. I'm going to take you now, and you're going to be healthy. And
Yeah.
that helped me a whole lot. And then, my why question, why?
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and God showed me that, it's okay to ask why. that even Jesus asked, why? Why have you forsaken me? And that's really how I felt. I felt forsaken and abandoned by God. I felt like he didn't answer our prayers. But then when God showed me that, even Jesus asked why, and it's okay to ask why. It's not okay to be an accuser of God, and he showed me that, that I really was agreeing with Satan. Satan is the one that did this, not God. And I was blaming him. And, that's not okay.
Yeah.
So all of that just helped me, come to terms and remember who God really is. And I think the most important thing was just that, that scripture about, if you believe in me, you shall live and never die. And when I really thought about, Jesus died, God let his own son die and suffer so that Emma could live, that she is alive. She's not with me, but she's alive.
Right.
And God let Jesus die so that she could live. And so I really started realizing how much he loved me and how much I loved him, really. And I kind of got over my anger then, So I learned a lot. I actually had kind of a list of some things I learned. You want me just to
I
read
would
that,
love,
Donna?
yeah, absolutely, because that was my
Okay.
next question. What did you,
What
what
did I learn?
changed? Well, what changed for you? How did you change? How
Yeah.
did your relationship with God change? And what did you learn? So those were the next questions I was going to ask.
Okay. Okay. This is my little list. You don't have to know why to know that God is good and he loves you. Take one day at a time. Don't worry about the small stuff in your life that doesn't matter anyway. Don't take the gift of a healthy child for granted. Do what you can. No regrets will be a great comfort in the end. It takes a long time to grieve. Don't try to make someone be where they are not. Anything can happen to anybody. Don't live in fear, but live for today.
Yeah.
And when you don't know what to do for someone, ask them and then do what they ask. So many times we want to help and we think we know how to help, and it might not be helpful, because if you've
Right.
never been in that situation, it might not be helpful. Listening is one of the most important things you can do. Sometimes there are no words. A hug can mean everything. Almost everybody is going through some sort of hard, painful thing, so be patient and be kind. Don't agree with Satan. Don't accuse God. That was a big one. Know that you do not bring pain to people when you ask them about someone who has died, or mention their name, or remember things about them. Because
Yes.
I really used to feel like that, like, oh, I don't want to mention this person. It's just going to bring pain. And no, people, they want to remember. They want to talk about them,
Yes.
Believing that you do not deserve to suffer is living under a works mentality. I think I really did feel like Summer and Mike are so faithful and just so good, such good people, that this shouldn't have happened to them. That
Oh,
wasn't fair.
wow, that's
And
incredible. That's an incredible insight, and I've never heard that before. That's powerful. That's really powerful.
well, it came from Summer, because I asked her one day. I said, why? We were just having a conversation, and we talked very honestly about everything about it. And I said, but why you, Summer? And she said, well, Mom, why not me? And it just hit me that, just that fact that we're
Yeah.
not exempt from suffering because we're Christians. So
So powerful.
I'm almost done. There is
That's
such a
fine.
thing as the sacrifice of praise. It's very
Mm-hmm.
hard to worship when you're
Yes.
grieving, and heaven means everything. Those who believe in me shall live and never die. And let's see, rather than lamenting the fact that God let this happen, remember that He knew it would happen.
Well,
And that
yeah.
is exactly why He went to the cross, to conquer death.
Wow.
So, those are some of the things that I learned.
Wow.
And I think the way it changed me is I appreciate, I just appreciate life more. I appreciate children more, my children, and I appreciate just the small things in life. I mean, when you deal with such big things, I mean, you realize a lot of things really don't matter that
Yeah.
much, you know? So, and I just learned that God is, God is good. You don't always get an answer for why, but it's okay because He knows, and I trust Him. You know, I trust
Mm.
that there is a reason. We don't always, I think it's a blessing if you get an answer to why, because not everyone does, you know.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Wow. Sherri, your story is just, there's so many powerful layers in your story. There's how you and your husband moved through this, how you observed your daughter and her husband, and how your family all came together. There's so many different layers in all of it. And I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking about the woman who's listening to this, and maybe she's just gone through something like this where she's watched her children suffer through something very difficult, or maybe even like you have been witness to the loss of a grandchild. I'm just thinking about that woman, and if you were sitting across the table from her, what would you say to her today?
Hmm. Well, I would say do what you can. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes it's the littlest things that you can do that really help, you know, just listening. If it's her daughter or something, just having someone that her daughter can call and know that she'll always be there and she'll do anything she can. That means a lot, I think. I think that helps a lot. Looking at, you know, to realize that there's other consequences to some of this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think, you know, when someone goes through something really hard and, you know, the marriage can really suffer, you know, the marriage can, I mean, it either pulls you together or it pulls you apart, I believe.
Right.
And
Right.
so, whatever you can do there, if you can relieve somebody, you know, with babysitting or just to relieve their stress, you know, bring them a meal, just anything you can do to relieve their stress. I think that, you know, that would be good. That would be something. And just know that God is good. He is
Yeah.
good. You know, you have to really hang on to the truth and know the truth, even if you're not feeling that, you know, you're if you don't feel like He's good because He's not, you know, basically doing what you want Him to. You
Right.
know, when you get right down to it, I mean, you know, I had to admit that, you know, it was he didn't do what I wanted Him to do. Well, you know, you just need to hang on to the truth that He is good and He does know what He's doing, and just, you know, stay with Him. Just
Yeah.
hang on to His hand and stay with Him, and get some friends around you to help you with your faith. Even Moses had people holding
Yeah.
up his arms,
Yeah.
and sometimes you
Absolutely.
need that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't feel like you can pray, because you're so discouraged, but other people can pray for you if you let them
Yes.
in, if they know what you're going through. And I think sometimes people, they don't let people know because they want to be strong or whatever. I had one friend that just gave me, as soon as she heard how hard things were, she just opened up her wallet and gave me $100 so that I could,
Yeah.
for gas money and stuff. And, I
Yeah.
never forgot that.
Yeah.
And then another little sweet little friend that I worked with, all she did was listen. She didn't
Mm.
have answers. She didn't know, but I turned around so many times in our little cube. I'd turn around and I'd say, "But why would God do that?" And like she's gonna know.
Like some answer was going to come and just like give you
Yeah.
all the answers. Yeah.
And she would just say, "I don't know, Sherry. I don't
Yeah.
know." And it gave me like permission to
Mm.
feel and to just kind of. I asked her so many times the same question, and I'd go
Yeah.
back to typing and doing my work, and then I'd turn around. But why would the God, have this doctor,
Yeah.
and all these questions that she couldn't answer, and all she really did was listen to me. It just, I never forgot her. I never forgot what Courtney did because she helped me probably, I don't know, it was more than anyone else, but a whole lot. She helped me
Yeah.
so much.
That's so
So,
powerful. Just the simple, not so simple act of listening is an incredible gift. An incredible
yeah,
gift. Sherri,
yeah.
thank you so much for being so vulnerable and for sharing such a story that touches your life on so many levels. I'm so thankful. Thank you for being my guest on the broadcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I really hope that something that you heard helped you to be encouraged and inspired. And in fact, if it has, would you do me a favor? Would you please just share this with a friend of yours and join me over on social media on Facebook and Instagram? Well, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. But be sure and go to the website, donnawoolham.com, and grab the free resources that we have for you. Thanks again, and have a wonderful Living at My Best day.